In the last video, I feel I misspoke. As soon as I said it, it felt weird. But I had said that I can't even imagine what the possibilities are um, when we reclaim our birthright and when we correct these wrongs and get society as humanity back on track. Because I am starting to see the picture. I can feel it. I get sparks of it. And it comes with clarity and moments of clarity and allowing and disregarding my preconceived notions and programmings and allowing myself to see the miracles that are taking place daily in my life as I take this personal responsibility and make these changes and prove to myself that I'm trustworthy. I am basically, through this healing, raise myself in the proper way with the proper guidance and being that elder, that parent that I can trust. So encompassing that full embodiment of what it means to be human, body, mind, and spirit, and having been dedicated on this path and cleared out all of the superfluous bullshit and coming to terms with exactly what we were born into through our lineages, being able to release those emotions that as a victim were rightfully mine, through the understanding that I was also a perpetrator. It brings a profound humbleness and humility wherein I'm finding a strength I could have never imagined prior to this. So I am imagining, and it's so amazing because over here we're made to do and never be enough, never have enough education, never have enough certificates, never be knowledgeable enough in enough areas, having to rely on other people for all these other things. Whereas here, you've gotten read and addressed all your superfluous desires and needs, supposed needs, that when you are really honest about it, you realize these needs were literally bred into you from this system in order to keep you controllable and under wraps. And when you free yourself from their superfluous bullshit, you realize you don't need any of this. And so, it's not a complete 180, drop everything in your life is changed and you're just on the path. It's you've been on the path the whole time. It's just you got sidetracked. And so through this healing and giving up of these things, acknowledging, recognizing, and giving up and reclaiming your birthright and dedicating yourself to this, it's so relieving because you're falling back in a literal trust fall from what it was over here to be an adult and what they call responsible. And you're allowing yourself to become a child again in a childlike state. and it's a childlike state of innocence and allowing and knowing, like a deep knowing, like before the world got a hold of you and beat the living birthright out of you, in your connection to everything. And so what is happening through this healing is I am becoming so super sensitive, but not more sensitive than I've ever allowed myself to be. Like I was afraid before to be sensitive at all because it hurt. It was too much because I had all this undealt with trauma and abuse and emotional and psychological and physical and spiritual just neglect and baggage, and giving myself the grace and the forgiveness and allowing myself to change. And through this journey, allowing myself to stumble again as a trust fall, realizing that there's no forcing it. It's a literal remembering to allow the magic to happen and stepping out of the way and allowing the body to heal and minimizing the toxic input and allowing the emotions to heal and minimizing and breaking down the walls that kept these emotions trapped inside, causing disease and confusion, and to allow the chains that became so familiar living a life like this for so long and reinforced through every means possible, to allow to literally have the profound amount of grace it takes to allow yourself to make mistakes as you stumble through on a daily basis, knowing that it's all working out in ways you can't even imagine for your reclamation of wholeness, your birthright, and for your higher good. And that spirit that had been reduced to the tiniest whisper in the wind to now become so integrated that that energy is radiating is miraculous. And to be able to go through a day and spend most of that day in remembrance and gratitude and amazement and wonder and acceptance and allowance of this gift of life is a gift I'm hoping to relay through these videos that is not only attainable, but is our birthright. That being said, you know, like I've said so many times, in order to do this, in order to move and shift from over here to over here, it is a requirement to reclaim our energy, time, focus, and attention off of these things over here. and focus them, like I said, like a laser beam right to back inside of us, because you're worth it. You are worthy. It's your birthright to be free. It's your birthright to live in the sphere of infinite potential, to be able to imagine, to be able to have freedom of thought, expression, and movement. True freedom of thought, expression, and movement. And not the type of expression, thought, and movement that's within these parameters that's so tightly controlled over here. But true freedom, unbound from the shackles of mental slavery and emotional repression and spiritual degradation. And in this transition, it's very confusing, because this energy over here can feel when it's losing one of its batteries. And when it does, it sends everything it can at you to reclaim its source of energy, you, me. And so it's so manipulative and so conniving. And I find that on my journey, the number one tactic it uses is not throwing the whole weight of the system on you, but to give you 95% truth and mix 5% in of distraction, manipulations, obfuscations, and just straight out lies. That's just enough to divert you. So that way, slowly, over moment by moment, day by day, decision by decision, you're off your path. And unless you're truly remaining present and aware constantly throughout your day and focused on where your energy and attention and making sure you're in alignment, body, mind, and spirit, and making sure that you're doing a complete 180 from this, it can quickly put you into quicksand. And very easily, a year, 6 months, a year can go by, and you think that you've done something, but really you've just been feeling sorry for yourself, waiting for a savior and hoping to God that this would end. And I just want to read something here. And I printed, this came off a Facebook post. But, and I don't know, you can research whatever you want. It doesn't matter. But this is pretty much, it's pretty much right on. And it's going to give a synopsis that where we're at right now today, the state of this clown show we're in, this hell that we're all trying not to burn through, right, has been predicted and known for centuries, for millennia, across every culture. And so I'm going to read some things here because, and by reading this, my intention is to calm the worried ego inside that is afraid to heal and feels abandonment and feels nothing but fear, doubt, and worry, and sees this as a monumental task to shift from here to here. And I just want to say that these systems are so entirely weak that they can't exist without us. Their monetary system literally relies on our parents signing us over to the state through our birth certificate and social security numbers. Otherwise, their monetary system wouldn't even exist. Their energy that it takes and the amount of effort it takes to uphold these corrupt, disgusting, inhumane systems is all coming from each one of our individual life force, energy, focus, and attention that we give to it. And so by reading this, I'm going to show that this has been predicted by our ancestors through our lineages. They are speaking to us through the past to shake us awake from the slumber that got us into this mess and reassure us that this has been predicted and forecasted and is a cycle that we're in at the moment. And that this cycle is not a hopeless cycle. This cycle is allowing us to have the opportunity to accept, to recognize, accept, acknowledge, and take personal responsibility and do what we must do to unbind ourselves from these shackles. Because as soon as we can get rid of the false need and desire for these things that they have told us that we need in order to live this life, as soon as we get rid of these vices, these shackles, we immediately can move over here. And in the transition, as we give up, we're slowly moving over here. Because right now we're so filled with what this is, there's no room for this. And as we get rid of some of this, it allows room for this. And as you allow room for this, that spirit gets stronger. And that connection gets stronger. And that remembrance gets clear. And the gift becomes more apparent. And so I'm going to read these now. And again, this is to reassure us that these times have been predicted for millennia across every culture, and that there's nothing to fear other than our choice to not change direction and trajectory when confronted with these harsh truths, and instead double down, justify, and defend our highly fortified position that we've buried ourselves in over here. So here we go. For thousands of years across every continent, every culture, every sacred lineage humanity has ever carried, the seers saw this moment coming. The Hindu sages mapped the darkness with surgical precision. Guys, you got to excuse me for a moment. I got to get a sip of water. Okay. My mouth was getting dry. I got my fireplace going. It's hot in here. The Hindu sages mapped the darkness with surgical precision, naming every symptom of this age thousands of years before it arrived. They called it the Kali Yuga, the age of quarrel, of hypocrisy, of spiritual amnesia, so complete that truth itself would become a stranger. And then they named what comes next, Kalki, the final avatar of Vishnu, the destroyer of filth, arriving on a white horse when the world has reached its furthest point from the sacred, to restore, to reset the karmic order and begin the cycle again in its original purity. And these are just short paragraphs of there's at least 10 of them, 12 of them. And I'm going to go over all these different cultures. The Hopi elders remembered the future, passed down through generations in ceremony and stone. Their prophecies named 9 signs that would mark the end of the 4th world and the opening of the 5th. Signs of poisoned waters, iron snakes crossing the land, a spider's web stretched across the sky connecting human voices. 7 of 9 have come to pass. The elders said when the 8th arrives, humanity stands at the crossroads. 2 paths, one scorched and one green, and the choice belongs to us. The Norse visionaries looked straight into the darkness and saw through to the other side. Ragnarok, the great unraveling, was always the necessary burning of everything false, every corrupted structure, every god who had forgotten his original nature. And beyond the fire, beyond the flood that follows, the earth rises again, green, fertile, renewed. A small number of beings survived because they were worthy of the world that comes after. Black Elk saw it all, the breaking of the sacred hoop of his nation, the famine, the sickness, the wars, the loss of the old ways. He saw it with grief and with clarity, and then he saw beyond it. The hoop mended. His people reunited after 7 generations. The daybreak star rising in the east. A greater hoop forming, not just of one nation, but of all nations of the earth, gathered at last into a single sacred circle. The white buffalo calf woman had promised she would return. In 1994, a white buffalo calf was born. The elders wept. The sign had come. The 7 fires prophecy of the Anishinaabe is one of the most precise roadmaps of human history ever recorded. 7 epics, each marked by a prophet who came to prepare the people for what was ahead. The 7th fire speaks of a time when the light-skinned race would face a choice between 2 roads. One well-worn and scorched, one green and largely untraveled. It speaks of a new people arising who would retrace their steps to find what was left behind. The ancient wisdom, the sacred ways, the original instructions. Many elders say we are living inside the 7th fire right now. The Mayan calendar keepers were among the most precise astronomers and time watchers the world has ever produced. Their great calendar did not end in 2012. It turned. It completed a cycle of 5,126 years and began again. The way a clock face completes its revolution and starts fresh, carrying everything it has learned into the next round. The Mayan Grand Elders themselves described 2012 as a threshold, a doorway into a new age of consciousness. We are still in the opening years of that new cycle. The birth has begun. The world being born is still finding its first breath. The Buddha spoke with unflinching honesty. His teachings would fade, humanity would forget, and the world would enter a period of profound suffering and confusion. The awakened one who would rediscover the teachings and offer them again to a humanity starved for what it had lost. The Tibetan tradition goes further still. Speaking of Shambhala, warrior sages arising in the darkest hour, armed with compassion and insight, dismantling the forces of destruction from within. Let me get another sip of water. Crazy, guys. What are we living in? It's magical. It's magical, it's cyclical, it's a gift. It's a personal responsibility. Islam named the signs of the hour with extraordinary specificity. The spread of corruption, the loss of trust between human beings, wars multiplying like brush fire, the rich gorging while the poor are forgotten, leaders who devour their people, and then the Mahdi, the guided one, emerging to restore justice, and alongside him, the return of Isa, Jesus, descending as a living presence, standing with humanity in its final reckoning and its greatest restoration. Those within the Islamic tradition who know these signs read today's headlines with recognition. The Sufi mystics spoke of the human heart as a mirror, and of the age of darkness as the time when the mirror becomes most clouded, most obscured by the dust of the world. Rumi, Hafiz, Ibn Arabi, they all pointed to a turning, a moment when the divine beloved could no longer be ignored, when the longing in the human heart would become so fierce it would burn through every veil. The Sufi path has always been preparation for exactly this, the complete dissolution of the false self, so the real can finally be seen. The Christian tradition held the second coming of Christ at the center of its prophetic vision, a return, a restoration, a new heaven meeting a new earth. The prophecies named the signs with precision. The rebirth of Israel, Jerusalem restored, wars and rumors of wars, the shaking of every established order. The mystics who went deepest into that tradition saw it as inevitable, imminent, and unmistakable in its signs. The end of the world as it has been, and the beginning of the world as it was always meant to be. Jewish eschatology speaks of the birth pangs of the Messiah, a period of unprecedented upheaval, moral confusion, and global shaking that precedes the Messianic age. The rabbinical tradition has long taught that these contractions, however painful, are the labor of something being born. The establishment of Israel in 1948, after 2,000 years of exile, was considered by many of the greatest rabbinic minds as the most significant prophetic fulfillment in recorded history. The hope of a people scattered across centuries beginning to close. The ancient Persian tradition named it Frasho Karidi, the final renovation of existence, a time when the world would be purified by fire, the dead would rise, and evil would be permanently defeated. A savior figure, the Ashayant, born to usher in the restoration. What makes this tradition remarkable is its insistence that human beings are active participants in this process. The renovation happens through the choices of conscious people, through truth spoken over lies, through righteousness chosen over comfort, through every act that aligns with Asha, the cosmic order. The turning requires participants. The Taoist tradition teaches that all things move in cycles. Periods of harmony give way to periods of chaos, and chaos always carries within it the seed of return. When a civilization has moved furthest from the Tao, furthest from the natural order, from simplicity, from the sacred flow of things, the Tao reasserts itself. The correction is the universe breathing back into balance. Lao Tzu wrote of this with quiet certainty. The harder things are forced, the more powerfully they return to the... Let me try that again. Lao Tzu wrote of this with quiet certainty. The harder things are forced, the more powerfully they return to their original nature. We are living in that return now. Ancient Chinese wisdom, attributed to Confucius, spoke of the Detang, the great harmony, a time when the world would be shared by all, when the widowed, the orphaned, the sick, and the forgotten would be cared for, and when humanity would operate as a single sacred community. The sages placed this vision as both a memory of what once was and a prophecy of what must come again. After centuries of fragmentation, inequality, and the worship of power over people, the Detang rises again as the destination this age is being forced toward. The Andean tradition speaks of the Pachacuti, a word meaning both catastrophe and transformation, the overturning of space and time. The Pachacuti arrives when the world has inverted itself, when what was sacred is forgotten and what is false has taken the throne. The elders of the Andes taught that we entered a new Pachacuti around the year 2012, a 50-year window of profound upheaval and reorientation, after which a new world aligned with Pachamama, the living earth, would emerge. The bridge people, the Chakaruna, are those called to walk between the old world and the new, holding the thread so humanity does not lose its way entirely. The Aboriginal Australian tradition holds that the world was sung into existence in the dreaming, and that it must continually be sung to sustain itself. The songlines, invisible pathways of sacred sound and story that crisscross the continent, are the living nervous system of the earth. when the sacred ways are forgotten, when the land is torn open for profit, the dreaming is disrupted. The elders have long warned of a time when the silence would reach a breaking point. That time, they say, is a summons, a call back to the original song, a reminder that the earth itself is alive, sentient, and waiting for its human caretakers to remember their role. The Baha'i tradition carries one of the most precise and recent prophetic visions of this area. Baha'u'llah declared recent prophetic visions of this era. Baha'u'llah declared that humanity was entering its collective adolescence, a period of extraordinary turbulence, conflict, and the breakdown of old world orders, leading inevitably to the most great peace. A unified world civilization built on the recognition of the oneness of humanity was prophesied as the destination of this very upheaval we are witnessing. The chaos is the adolescence. The peace is the maturity, and it is coming. And when these traditions are speaking of a one world community, a one world unification of civilization, a oneness of humanity, it's not any of this. It's this, guys. It's this. It's not through force. It's through allowance. It's through recognition. It's through acceptance. It's through forgiveness. It's through grace. It's through changing our course, changing our trajectory, taking personal responsibility, allowing freedom of thought, expression, and movement, imagining the childlike state of imagining. The ancient Hermetic tradition taught that every great age must pass through Negrito, the blackening, the breakdown, the dissolution of everything that has hardened into falsehood. This is the phase that looks like destruction from the outside. From the inside, for those who understand the process, it is alchemy. What burns is what was never true. What remains when the fire passes is gold, purified, clarified, more itself than it has ever been. The great work was always a civilizational undertaking. Every tradition, every lineage, every corner of this earth, they were all watching the same horizon. They were all watching now. The fearful mind meets this moment on its knees, collapsing into the destruction, fixating on what is ending, asking desperate and small, will I survive this? The warrior sage stands at the center of the storm and asks a different question. Why am I here? Because you didn't stumble into this moment. You were placed here with precision, with purpose, with full divine intentionality. Every soul present on this earth right now, every soul who feels the pull of something greater moving beneath the noise of collapse, was selected for this crossing. That anxiety you feel about the state of the world, that is a warrior sage recognizing the battlefield. The longing you carry for something more true, more real, more awake, that longing is a mission trying to find its way into your hands. The prophecies describe something moving through humanity, through me and through you. You, hearing this right now, the restlessness in your chest that is never fully quieted, even when life looked fine from the outside, the sense that you carry something you haven't fully delivered yet, the feeling that the ordinary life, however comfortable, is a fraction of what you were actually sent here to do. That is a calling, ancient, precise, and addressed to you by name. The divine current that every tradition named, the force that comes at the close of ages to harmonize, to balance, to restore, to begin the karmic cycle again in its original clarity. That current moves through awakened human beings who choose at the deepest level of their soul to be present and conscious and willing at exactly this hour. You and I are one of them. This is cosmology. This is what the seers saw when they looked at this hour. The great remembering is a living function. It is what happens when enough human beings stop identifying with the collapsing world and start inhabiting their original nature. Sovereign, luminous, rooted in something no system can touch. Every time you choose truth over comfort, you serve the turning. Every time you meet another human being in their real depth rather than their performance, you serve the turning. Every time you refuse to let fear be the last word, you serve the turning. Every single time you do the work, the real work of remembering who you are beneath the noise of this age, you become what the prophecies pointed toward. An instrument of the new world, a midwife of the age that follows. The warrior sages of every age were the ones who walked into the fire willingly, clear-eyed, purposeful, unbroken, and carried others through. This is our fire. This is our age. This is our assignment. We didn't arrive late. We arrived exactly on time. Welcome to the most important moment in human history. We belong here. Embrace it. Embrace who you are. You're an eternal, all-knowing, all-powerful soul connected to everything through these lineages that I just mentioned. Connected on this deep, intimate, all-pervasive level. Occupying, managing, in charge of this profoundly technologically advanced biological mechanism, species, connected to everything on that level, living in an era, a turning point that our ancestors spoke these words through time and space to not instill fear, but ignite the fire within us and the remembrances within us of who we truly are. Take care of yourselves, guys. Nobody else will.